day to everyone. And I would like to thank again the organizer for a great organization and inviting me to this event. And it will be hard after Rohit to talk about something is very actually case study. I will be concentrating on the response to 6th February earthquake in Turkey and Syria. So before I start to give the information about the earthquake, maybe it's better to give a very short background about our team. And actually, in normal times, we are teaching at the universities as a member of the ECOMOS eCorp response unit and for the crisis and the risk preparedness unit. And but in times of disaster, many of us have another proficiency for responding to the disasters. So we have an expert on the architecture and engineering and counterterrorism from Army and from the heritage intelligence. We have members from these proficiencies. So for a long time, actually, we were working with colleagues from different fields because if you are from a disaster country, you always need to be very ready. So I will give some examples that for us, since yesterday we are talking about what is the meaning of the cultural heritage or cultural property. For us is not only the museum objects, not only the museum itself, is the religious buildings, government buildings, critical infrastructures, and hospitals in heritage buildings, historical bridges, station buildings, and ceremonial place in nature. It's hard to describe the limits actually also, and the living human heritage also. For us, the meaning is collective memory, identity, and also national security and international security issues. So in the past, actually, this kind of hierarchical system for the response was not so familiar to us as a heritage expert. We were thinking that some other organizations, emergency response organizations, are working in the first operational zone, and we are joining them later. But after many disasters, we figured out that we need to be ready for the 0 second. We call 0 second that for emergency responders, for the army, for the heritage rescuers, is the 0 second is different actually. For the emergency responders and the army, 0 second is a 0 seconds. They need to be in there. But for us, is a 0 second is start sometimes a week later, sometimes a month later, or sometimes 2 months later. But we missed a very important information from what's happened at the very early stage of the disaster. Therefore, we had many failure stories that because we established our response procedures, we established our preparedness procedures according to the 2 months or 3 months after disaster. So we wanted to change this to move a bit closer to 0 second of the emergency responders. So we work on that for many years, how we can improve this. When the emergency declared for heritage experts, who will respond, what is the protocol, and who is as a legal, who is as a technical, who is as a financial, that was always a question for us. So we start to work on, as a heritage professionals, to work on this subject. We try to improve our capacity for the remote sensing. It's starting from the Haiti earthquake in 2010 for us. And we also, this is the new image from the 6th of February earthquake that we are working on the remote sensing. So we were trying to more active on the ground for the damage assessment. This is from very close in August from Ukraine in our fieldwork for the assessment. And we also try to help the strategical level paper. This is one of them is, as you know, that the terminology of the cultural property protection is changed. And 2021 International Criminal Court actually give a new definition instead of cultural property protection to cultural heritage protection. We also give a support to the terminology, how we will describe the cultural heritage on this level. And also for a 5 years work, recently actually on this March, we had a collaboration with UN OCHA, United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, and INSARAG, International Search and Rescue Advisory Group, UNESCO, ICROM, and ECORP Turkey collaborate together for guidance note for operation in heritage areas. As you know, that is like a operation in cold zones or operation in the hot zones environment is different. And now is the new, actually, the guidance for the operations in the heritage site. And before you go to any operation place as a core of the heritage center, you can follow this. And also, we start to collaborate with the search and rescue group. Since 2010, we are working one of the international search and rescue group actually accredited by the INSARAG. This is GEA Search and Rescue Group. And we start to work together with them how we can collaborate during the operation. This is one of the examples from Nepal. As soon as they finalize the search and rescue operations, they provide us more than 2,000 photos about the collapsed building, heritage areas. That was very important for us because we had a chance, before they removed the heritage debris, we had a chance to see the situation of the heritage buildings, the collapsing mechanism, because you know when you arrive two weeks or 3 weeks later, you never have a chance to see that how the collapse mechanism happened. Let's not continue. You can do it from there. It's okay. Okay, we also had a chance to collaborate with NATO in some exercises, and Euro module exercise with the user team on Sicily. It was one of the examples that we had a collaboration. And this is one of the video show that from our exercise in Italy. actually we were really feel very okay, and we really feel very actually ready. When the disaster hit February 6th at 4:17 midnight. Actually, then we figured out that something is very wrong. We received the call in the middle of the night, and it was a very short call actually. It was a big earthquake, you need to come to base, and we will deploy very soon. So we only know the epicenter, and because of the global disaster alert system, and virtual also start to give the very early information, but it was no information actually. And if you know that if the disaster big is sometimes you do not have any information. That is one of the first indicator that disaster is really big disaster. So these are some photos that as soon as early in the morning we start to receive. It was terrible because we were expecting the base is Kahramanmaraş. We were expecting that only Kahramanmaraş and a couple more cities may be affected. Then we figured out that most of the airports is not working anymore, and most of the roads are blocked actually. And these are the situation that it was the heavy rain, heavy snow, no electricity, no internet, and only one airport, international airport was working. At the same day, actually, we declared the emergency, international emergency, and we request the help from the international search and rescue organizations, and also NATO provided support for that. This is how the line of the earthquake actually is affected 11 cities in the area. And we had a 3 big earthquake in 2 weeks. And after that, we have 7 big earthquake again. It's not aftershock, it was all earthquake. And you can imagine that while we are working for the rescue and actually the aftershocks and the second earthquake actually took place. For giving an example that how big is like a Haiti earthquake that I also was involved for the search and rescue operation, and it's not comparable with this, and it was a very big earthquake and affected many people. And 2.1 quadrillion joule, the Haiti earthquake, and actually the 30 quadrillion joule, the 6th February earthquake. This is for comparison. And even like last week, we recovered some casualties from the debris, and we have more than 60,000 people died, and more than 1 million actually affected, and many of them is the organ loss actually. When we arrived to site actually, it is multiple disaster. We had a fire, we had a flooding, and we had also the earthquake at the same time. And when we look at the collapsing mechanism, that also many different collapse mechanisms took place at the same places. And another big problem actually, it was very close to the seashore and it was flooded many places, and many of the museums are under this area actually. And these are some buildings that looks like a 3-4 story buildings, but it's because of the melted soil composition, it was actually the sinked, the buildings also. It was one of the many big concerns. And that was the unexpectedly, actually many of our heritage buildings had a very heavy damage. These photos are from our group that we took immediately in the area. As soon as we finalized the search and rescue operations, 6 of our members are also the heritage expert. And we moved to another stage for checking the situation of the heritage building with the request of the government. So we did the very first preliminary assessment, then we tried to figure out the size of the effect on the heritage buildings. And because of the situation, we couldn't actually access the many of the buildings. Some of them were blocked from the rubble, some of them were not secure. We tried to figure out that what is the condition of inside, and we use a small drones for bees for figuring out the situation and how we can do the stabilization work in the area. This is one of the examples that the Catholic Church. So we also start to collect information for the first preliminary assessment. And one of the biggest concerns, of course, the World Heritage Sites. This is from Nemrut. It was a big storm and we never had a chance to reach the area. We asked help from the army that we use their drone images for checking the situation they provide for us. At the first report, it looks like okay, but it was because of the snow, we could not actually be sure that it is okay or not. And immediately, Minister of Culture gave us a call and invite us to Ankara for a meeting, and all of the heritage authorities and the search and rescue groups and the NGOs come together, and we try to figure out that how we will continue. And under the umbrella of the Ministry of Culture, UNESCO Turkey, İKOMOS Turkey, İKORP Turkey, and the universities work together. Since then we are working. Because of the damage was so big, and it was not actually good to remove the heritage debris, and the Ministry of Culture put a label to each individual heritage buildings had a problem, and therefore Ministry of Urbanization did not do the debris removal in these buildings. So that's our team, and who work on the field and for documenting the problems. This is one of the biggest actually street that in Antakya actually almost totally damaged. And we also had images from the drones that we were trying to figure out that how we will access the building, how we plan to building to access the area. And after that, we did the 3D modeling 3 weeks later, because it takes a time, and to figure out that how we will lead the operation. And also we are trying to find actually the living treasures, people who are in that neighborhood. One of them is the Hasan Büyükaşık. He is making the silk cloth, and he is only the one person. Luckily, he survived. But it takes a time. It took a time to find them. Where are they? And one of the biggest problem actually in the Antakya, we have a biggest actually the tile mosaics is 1,000 meters square, big, huge. And as you can imagine that you cannot remove from the area, and you need to treat in there. And this is Hittite king statue. It was inside of the Antakya Museum. And unfortunately, it was full of debris, and due to the security issue, many of the objects were not removed actually, put in the same place, and we tried to secure them. And some of them, actually, we had a collaboration with the Turkish Defense Force, and together, and we removed some religious objects from the mosques and churches. And at the end, we have actually more than 7,000 registered buildings, and more than 200 and 300 of them totally collapsed. And we have some medium damage, more than 1,000, and light damage, and we have only 1,500 and no damage. And actually, we had a problem with the security, respect to private life, and data sharing. It is a big problem actually for the future also. When you travel to this area, when you want to do academic research, actually you need to be very careful about the data sharing. It's one of the important things that when you take the photos, you need to make sure that you are respecting the people usually still in their dead bodies sometimes. And also the national security issue is very important because we are very close to the borders. And unfortunately, one of the search and rescue groups not only rescued the people, but also rescued the artifacts and moved to their country. And after that, they brought back with diplomacy. So, in last, actually, we usually think that disaster risk management is a cycle. Now we know that it is not a cycle, actually. This is a cyclic loop. And each time, we are not coming to the same place, actually. We are moving to the different level. That is actually what this movement is how you call this? This is resilience. And you need to collect the information when you do the cyclic loops, not coming to the same place. If we come to the same place, we will probably fail. So, thank you very much.